All right, we've done it. We put our heads together and we figured out a way to fix the Martin Inception guitar. Hey, you're watching Alamo Music TV. My name is Chris McKee.
And I'm Cooper Greenberg.
We're here with Alamo Music in San Antonio, Texas. You can find us online at alamomusic.com. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe, turn on notifications, like our videos. If you want to support the channel, visit our Spring Store link below for custom swag, and check out our podcast, the Fretboard Confessional, wherever you get your podcasts. If you've been living under a rock, at the NAMM Show, Martin unveiled a new dramatically different guitar called the Inception, specifically the GPCE Maple Inception. And we've already reviewed this guitar on our channel. There was a lot of buildup going into NAMM. The bracing in this is dramatically different from anything they've ever done before. And visually, it certainly creates a stunning splash inside the guitar and was all over their marketing.
Yeah.
When we finally got the guitars in and were able to play them, there was something that was a bit off. Now, at the NAMM Show, you can't hear anything, right? So you really couldn't get a good takeaway. But we reviewed this guitar, and our general takeaway was we liked the guitar, but it's missing something. Something seems off, and we suspected...
It's the strings.
Yeah, it's the strings. And the strings that they're putting on it are their new East Coast bookie strings.
Oh, Luxe is looking for you.
The Luxe Kovar strings. Don't owe money to Luxe, he'll kneecap you. So what we decided to do was fix it, and despite our dramatic introduction, the good news is it does not require a Sawzall. All it does is require a string winder.
Yeah, so the Luxe Kovar strings are what ships on these guitars, and it's what you heard in that demo. We also talked recently in another Martin video with the M36 and the J40 about how dramatically those two different sets of strings, we at least believe, affected the comparison of those. And it all comes down to what Martin's shipping on the guitars. They are going to go straight on the sales floor of your local store, and you will encounter them for the first time with those strings. So a lot of folks have played Inceptions at our store, and some people have really liked them, just like Chris talked about with the J40. Some people love that sound, but the question is, what is the right string to give you the best idea of what the guitar sounds like, and why that may be some sort of like a fallacy is then, are you hearing the guitar, or are you hearing the strings?
Yeah.
So I think probably what Chris put on these guitars is the best blank canvas string.
Well, it's the most traditional string, you know. So like Cooper was just saying, strings dramatically change the sound of an acoustic or even an electric guitar. You think your Telly has a lot of spank on it? Throw some flat wounds on it and see how spanky it is. It's going to dramatically change. So I think we as guitar players often underestimate the power of strings. And usually it revolves around string gauge, changing tension, that kind of thing. Up until recently, maybe someone would go from Phosphor bronze to 80-20, which is a pretty minor change. Yeah. But now with a lot of these new things on the market, D'Addario years ago had the nickel bronze, and then Martin had the retro ones, then the titanium ones, and now these Luxe Kovar strings. It really can dramatically alter the voice of an acoustic guitar. I think, this is my opinion, and your opinion, it's the right one. I think Martin made a misstep in shipping these with Luxe Kovar strings. And I'll give you two reasons. One is completely visual. This guitar has a really nice, warm, visual aesthetic to it that goes really, really well with the look of Phosphor bronze strings versus a nickel look like you'd see on typical electric guitars. So visually, I think this works. But the other part is, when you're trying a new guitar out for the first time, particularly something that's new to market, what are you going to do? You're going to compare it to other guitars that you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And just about every other guitar that's going to be hanging on a wall in any music store is going to have Phosphor bronze strings on it.
Yeah. And only other thing that we really see is guitars coming with 80-20.
Yeah.
Like some come with 80-20. That's a decent way to compare. That's not going to totally throw you off hearing one over the other. I know that Taylor shipped 8027 flame tops with, I think, nickel bronze,
Right.
which is interesting because that was a maple guitar.
Right.
And so they made a choice that this guitar sounds best with these strings. This is also a maple guitar, but not an all maple guitar.
Right. Still spruce top.
Spruce top, maple back and sides with a walnut wedge down the center. Every other spruce top maple guitar that I think I've ever played has come with phosphor bronze strings on it. So whether the playing of phosphor bronze strings on an acoustic guitar is truly the, like, you're hearing the guitar for what it really is, or it's just the sound that most people are familiar with, we weren't going to let it slide. That's a lot of people in the comments were like, that sounds dead, basically. So Chris's hypothesis, I think, showed us some drastic change. Remember, this guitar's sound is informed by the top wood, EQ'd by the back and sides, and skeletal bracing that is unlike anything that they have ever done. So you will hear it first with what they're shipping it with, the Luxe strings, and you'll hear, first thing I ever do on a guitar is strum an E chord when I sit down, E or a G. I think a lot of people hit that E. So bottom string, sixth string, just open, and then adding in some other strings and getting a couple chord strums. You'll hear this, and then you'll hear that. It's going to be very obvious to you. And then some finger picking as well, because this is a great finger picking guitar. But even that, with less of just a heavy pick attack, there is a difference. I'm not trying to spoil it for you, but there is a difference. So take a listen.
All right, so there you have it. I hope that you're already typing in the comments what you thought of the comparison, if you could hear the difference, and which one you like better. Now, as Cooper said, and we said in the other video, we've had customers come in and prefer those or the titanium strings. So, your mileage may vary. I will say this, when we did that first demo, and when I've been playing these guitars with the Luxe Kovar strings, it wasn't just the tonality. There is something different about the tension of the Luxe Kovar strings. And I think that plays a part in what we're hearing, because if indeed the tension is different, like I'm feeling in my fingers, then it's also going to be a little bit different on the top of the guitar. Yeah. But this is a great example that strings are fascinating. I have a ton of theories about various strings, even from manufacturers, and how it informs the sound of the guitar and the feel of the guitar.
Are those Martin Phosphor Bronze?
They're not.
Are those D'Addario?
They
XS?
are. They're D'Addario XS Phosphor Bronze strings.
So for my guitar, my Martin, I put the, I think it's the MA 540s or 545s. I really like Martin's Phosphor Bronze strings, the treated ones. So it'd be the 545Ts or the 540Ts. I like those strings a lot. I think Martin themselves, they make their strings, and they should know that, like, those, I see, I mean, on another guitar that I have, I put the Martin Retros on them. I'm a fan of Martin strings, but it's also, I think, a time thing. Like, we're in a time where acoustic guitars, one, are huge. They're, I mean, especially over the last 4 years now, acoustic guitars have taken off. Yeah. Everybody knows that. And I think a lot of people, especially Martin customers, have been accustomed to strumming a Martin, getting a huge, full, ringing, sustaining, resonating sound. And so I'm not trying to say Martin should only put their treated Phosphor Bronze strings on every guitar, but I have done quite a few string changes in the store, as Chris has, of people, wanting this type of string. So if you are getting a Inception or a J40 or a D45 or whatever that may have Luxe or titanium or retro strings, I don't know if they're shipping any with retro strings, but if you have a guitar in your mind and you're like a lot of people who aren't near a small guitar store, that they have, not necessarily small, but a regional neighborhood guitar store that has all the Martins for you to try, but you've watched a bunch of videos, you want an Inception because you heard the demo on this one, just tell us. We'll switch anything out for you. And if you really want a D28, but you want Luxe strings on there, we can do that too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do think one of the biggest things that turns people off from certain guitars is they go into a shop, they try it out, they've watched many videos on it, and it's set up horribly. If you go to maybe like a big box store, like a store that's all over the place in every city, that doesn't take care of them, and the action, they want to play a D28 their whole life, and you can't even fret a string on it. A bad setup's going to turn anybody off, because then they're going to say, I can't play Martins.
Or old strings.
Because they're, old strings, whatever. It shouldn't, a guitar store shouldn't be turning people off from buying a great guitar because it's set up poorly. But also a guitar store and the brand that made the guitar should not be turning people off with strings that don't give the guitar its fullest potential.
Yeah, so I think we are both in agreement that this guitar we like better with the Phosphor Bronze strings. Mm-hmm. Can we get like podcast geeky for a little bit?
Hit me up. Dude.
All right, so you asked what strings I put on here, and I put on the D'Addario XS 12 to 53 Phosphor Bronze strings. I did that for a particular reason, mostly because it's going to be in our showroom, and I know how certain strings will wear with use and how other strings won't. But I have a particular theory about Martin strings that I've fostered for a bit, and I wanted to hang a little bit here and see what your thoughts are. Okay. I like Martin Phosphor Bronze strings right out of the package. They are some of the most brilliant sounding strings that are on the market. I don't like the feel of them. I think that they tend to feel, for me, a little bit more coarse and have a little bit more string squeak.
Yeah.
I think those two things are related. So here's my theory. Here's what I think I figured out. If you take a Martin string and you put it on there and you hear that string squeak, that's because that there is a coarser wrap that's taking place on the wound strings compared to other string companies. And I think that that coarseness is what leads to the brilliance that you hear acoustically. And I think that because if you compared it to, say, something that was flat wound, where the wrap has been completely compressed and there is no coarseness at all, it sounds dull comparatively. And so if a flat wound string sounds dull because the wraps have been compressed, then you should expect that something that goes the opposite way will sound different, because I think it's how it's affecting, basically moving through the air and cutting it, and so to speak. So that's kind of how I feel about it. We also, since we are a Martin dealer, have identified that those strings, when they're not coated and they're on a guitar, if it gets a lot of playtime, those strings will go dead faster.
Yeah.
And I think it's for the same reason. The coarseness of the wrap allows more dirt and oil from people playing the guitar to get in there and causes the string to go bad.
Yeah. And they're not coated.
And they're like, if it's the lifespan, they're treated, but they're not coated, which means that there's nothing inhibiting dirt and oil from getting in there. So, a lot of professional musicians, they change strings very often so that they can have that brilliance, and they don't have to deal with it. Yeah. So if you're good with that, they're great strings. But if you want something that you don't have to mess with, you usually go with something that's coated. And that's my diatribe on the subject.
I can dig that. You want one more wild card thrown out?
Let's go for it.
On my Fender right now, can you guess what strings I have on there?
Excess strings?
Luxe Kovar.
Luxe Kovar?
Yeah.
How are you liking it?
There's something if anybody is a Jeff Tweedy fan, Wilco fan, he always talks about his favorite sound on acoustic guitar is super dead strings. And I really like that sound. And I've done retros for a really long time, and they sound their best like 2 months in.
So you're saying the Luxe Kovar are already worn out retros?
Not that they're worn out, not that they're dead, but they have a certain kind of, let's say a note fundamental.
Gotcha.
And I just am a fan in the right context.
Hey, famously, Neil Young would, his favorite strings are ones he'd played forever. He would take them off and he would boil them and put them back on the guitar, and that's the sound he liked.
Ted does that.
Yeah, I mean, so seriously, I mean, there's a benefit to the sound that you're going after. I love how you just advertised Luxe Kovar strings. It's fantastic.
I mean, the Luxe strings are good for something, but it was apparent in the demo that this is a wholly different sound than that, and that kind of call that one might want to make. It's the same thing about that all these Gen Zers are making rubber bridge guitars because they want that kind of thing. That's
you just need to get Luxe Kovar strings.
That's a choice for the artists to make, that say, I got a few acoustic guitars, I want one to sound very old school and retro and played in like I found this old thing.
I want it to sound like a 1940s K guitar that I bought in a thrift store for $40.
Exactly. But at a guitar of this caliber, that's this
super modern,
cutting edge and very modern, it deserves to be heard with a high definition speaker instead of off an iPhone.
Well, I like, we've talked about this, I like retro strings on mahogany guitars. I don't tend to like them on rosewood guitars because of my expectation of what I want out of rosewood. Yeah. So play around with the strings that are on your guitar. If you have a Taylor, can you put something other than Elixir on it? Yeah, Taylor is currently. That's a common question.
GHS boomers.
Listen, it won't spontaneously combust.
Yeah.
Even if someone on a Facebook group named Chris McKee told you it will, it won't. So yeah, slinky boomers, whatever you want to put on the guitar, you should try it.
Yeah, mess around. We happen to have what I think is a very cool thing, but we have Martin string variety packs that we've made on our own site. But if you're a Martin player and you like to stick with Martin strings, they have such a wide range of things. Phosphor bronze, 8020, Monel, retros, Luxe, titanium, and then within there, treated strings, silken steels,
You ever
all
use
this kind of stuff.
the silk wrapped marquee strings?
Yeah, I've used
I
them.
like those.
Yeah, I mean, for your feel and your sound, Martin makes a string that will go along with it, but you make the choice of what you want your guitar to sound like after you've tried it out in a comparable state.
The controlled manner.
Yeah.
Well, let us know what you think of our experiment. Should we get the Sawzall back out, or has this fixed their guitar? I really would love to know. Again, some people are probably going to go, no, I really liked the tone of those.
Yeah.
But I have a suspicion, if we did a poll, that a lot of people would just go with the traditional Phosphor bronze string.
Yeah, and don't be afraid when you're in our store or another store when you say, hey, can I get a string change or whatever? Be picky with what you want, because now you see, if I happen to be in a Luxe mood, it could completely change the sound of your guitar. And then you might be like, that guy broke my guitar, and get your Sawzall out. But yeah, ask for whatever you like. If you like 80-20, we'll put them on there. Silk and steels, whatever. But you're probably gonna wanna change it from the Luxe.
If you're new to our channel, you know what to do. Subscribe, turn on notifications, like our videos. If you would like to purchase one of these guitars with either string pack, head over to our website,
alamomusic.com.
and we can help you out with whatever you need. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time.